How's it going, guys? Welcome back to another SBT Power Rankings video. We're here with Mams, myself. We have actually Chris, aka Simi Chris, with us.
Hello.
And then we got Beater, Beatergate himself.
Hello, I'm back.
Alright, so we're here to talk about Guardians post-draft power rankings. You know, the three of us plus Eagle, who couldn't be in this recording, went over the teams pretty extensively, and we've talked about all your teams, and we're trying so hard not to make fun of them. But you know, we have some decent teams drafted this division, so we're obviously going to start from the bottom and then make our way to the top, and hopefully we don't take too long with each team, but we're going to break it down for you guys. So let's start from the bottom, and the graphics will show up for you guys on the screen as we talk about them. But our last pick at number 16, we had Juke Loans and his what is it called, the Jodo Jukes.
I think so, something like that.
Yeah. So what was our deal with putting Juke at number 16, guys?
Chris, you want to start, or you want me to get into it?
I think it's just kind of underwhelming for the most part. Like, there's not like very many breakers, if there are any. And his removal is pretty limited. It's pretty much just Skarmory.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
This
not
Skarmory,
just like
the Skarmory was definitely like the only thing that kind of brought things together. If he doesn't have to, like, he has to kind of bring Skarmory every single match, right?
yeah, pretty much. He's got to glue together defenses week by week.
Mm-hmm.
And to Chris's point about breakers, his offensive threats pretty much all need Life Orb or a choice item to really do threatening damage.
Or setup.
Like if that was a Libero,
Coco.
if that was a Libero Cinderace, that's one thing.
Yeah.
But you're right, Coco needs either Calm Mind or choice item to really threaten. Swampert needs a choice item to threaten. Cinderace needs a choice item to threaten.
Yeah.
Zaru needs a choice item to threaten. Dialego needs a Life Orb or a choice item to threaten. Just like, you kind of see a trend here.
Yeah.
If he wants to really provide offensive threats, he needs to sacrifice his pliability or his health as a cost.
I'll give him that
points.
he has
Yeah.
like, you can't overlook that he has the Arctozolt in terrain and in hail. Like, that's gonna do some kind of work, right?
Could be scary. That's a good
fair.
use for 5 points. Like, the Hypno with being there with 5 points left over just doesn't make any sense.
Yeah, if you wanted to take that Hypno, turn into, an actual Psychic type,
And
for
Musharna.
7 points,
Musharna,
that would be
that would've been
fantastic.
nice.
There's a Musharna, there's an Espeon, there's a Sigilyph. Or you could take the Zarude and the Hypno, take those 5 points, and turn it into an actual Dark type or an actual Grass type. Because for as good as Zarude is on paper, you're going to be roping yourself into those choice items or those Life Orb items more than you think.
I did speak with you guys prior to this, and I spoke with Juke as well, where, he could have taken the Cinderace and the Goodra and then turned it into a Megazord X, which would have been a nice cleaner or a breaker in itself. And he might still do that. He still has like 5 points, and he has free agent picks, so that's definitely good for potential moving around. Otherwise, Goodra is interesting because, it's just a nice special wall. I don't really understand Swampert.
To take special hits.
Yeah, you're right. Yeah. To be honest, his special attackers are probably going to be things like Coco, Nihilego, and Goodra, or everything else is probably going to be physical. Well, Vanillux, I missed that too, but
it's a Vanillux.
Yeah. In Specs Vanillux can actually be kind of annoying with freeze dry.
Yeah.
But to your point about Swampert, it's beyond the fact that it's an odd round 3 pick.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's how it ropes into this team is a little, like, I get that it's nice typing for Coco Sport, but really, like,
it's interesting because he has some nice pivots. He has a Coco with U-turn Cinderace, flip turn Swampert. He's got Zarude for U-turn. Hypno can teleport. There's some nice pivoting options he has going. But honestly, when you want to pivot out, I think you want to find you want to find your footing. You want to find like some momentum. It's not just pivoting you need. You can't just pivot out into your wall and then think, okay, I'm okay now. Where your opponent could just continuously set up on you. I think his team, like you guys were talking about, I think was a little bit too passive. Where he does have like Coco and
can
Cinderace.
really come in off of the only thing that really comes in off a pivot that like can be scary and like can take a hit is if you have a kind of mediocre special attacker, you can pivot into Nihilego, but everything else, you're either pivoting into a wall or you're pivoting into something that really doesn't want to take a hit.
Yeah, exactly. And then his removal, like you guys said, is just the Skarmory, really. Coco can defog, but you don't really want your main offensive Mon to
run that. We don't
run that. Yeah.
We don't run bad sets here.
So it's a nice squad for Juke. I'm sure he kind of makes some weird stuff work. I'm interested to see how well he does with it. But for right now, I think maybe try to look at those 5 points that you have and see if you can spice up your team a little bit more. It could be.
It has potential.
Yeah, it could have potential. For the sake of moving on, I think we can just move up to our number 15, guys.
Let's do it.
Someone want to introduce?
Yeah, I'll take it. Next up at number 15, we have X Gamer with his Hollow Knights.
Mm-hmm.
And I feel like the one thing we all came to consensus on is the first 4/first 5 picks, they're gas. Like, they're cooking.
There's some threats.
They're pretty good.
They're cooking.
I'm afraid.
Mm-hmm.
And then we get to the rest of the team.
Yeah.
The rest of the team,
Oof.
it's mainly either for bulk or for, I don't know what purpose exactly, but in no sense of, whenever I looked at the Jolteon, I was never like, oh, this fits perfectly right here. I guess he needed an electric type, so Jolteon's not too bad there. But
Jolteon's just not very good.
Yeah.
I feel like a lot of these mons in the bottom row particularly, and Doug Trio included, are very much there for something's got to do X. For example, Jolteon is something's got to be fast. Cresselia, something's got to take these hits. So
Cresselia is the only thing on the team that reliably takes hits, besides maybe like a bulky Scizor.
Yeah.
A Tangela maybe.
And if that's the reason for drafting him on, then there's really got to be some better options. Or it's probably
Crash just doesn't make sense with the rest of the stuff.
Yeah, exactly. The synergy with the first couple mons, obviously you can tell immediately, like Diancie, Hydreigon, Scizor, and especially even with Galar Zap, Marowak you can even include if you wanted to. But all those mons, they kind of do, they fill their role really nicely and they synergize nicely. But then it kind of drops off a little bit, and unfortunately, it might have to be the case where you bring the same couple of mons every single week. I don't see Dunsparce ever really making a showing. He could if he wants to.
I just don't see him not bringing any of the first 4.
Yeah.
He's always going to bring the first 4.
First 4, and he's going to want to bring a Lililak. I think a Lililak's just a much better mon for this team than a lot of the other mons, so he's probably want to bring that 5th. Touching on the Doug Trio, because we had this conversation when we were kind of breaking down the teams.
Yes.
It's nice to have trapping, but the trapping has to be tactical. Gothitel's a little bit of a better trapper mon because when it's in, it can do more things. But Doug Trio's trapping is very clear cut. It wants to trap, it wants to hit, it wants to trap, it wants to EQ revenge, and kind of keep it pushing.
Mm.
But looking at his team, what Doug Trio wants to trap isn't really the problem. Like, I get it, you want to trap electric types that Galar Zap is going to have to face, but realistically, Galar Zap's Thunderous Kick can do enough to a lot of them to where it's not a primary concern. Also, you have Hydreigon that can switch in, plus the Jolteon on the back, which, hey, usage. Diancie, I get you want to trap steel types. Pure steel isn't really the problem for Diancie, it's steel coverage that gives it issues. So you're like, it's not going to be primary steel typings that you're going to be trapping. It's going to be coming in mostly with special attackers with Flash Cannon or physical attackers with Iron Head that can outspeed it. The only thing that Doug Trio really traps is fire types that want to take on the Scizor, which, I mean, that's great and all, but they run Shuka, click Will-O-Wisp, and haha. So,
And
like,
you also have a Cresselia that can eat any kind of fire. And then Marowak, he's also not that frail when it comes to taking not effective moves. So
exactly.
Dougie is nice in some regards. Like if you want to get momentum with it, you can trap something, do some damage, and then memento out into Diancie or Hydreigon or something. It makes sense.
There'll be certain mons in certain matchups where Dugtrio can be beneficial. Like I'm looking just over at one of the teams. Like if you face a Zero, okay, maybe then Dugtrio can be of some usage. But then, like, for 12 points spent on a mon that's really only giving you usage in 3 or 4 of your battles, it's not optimal kind of point spending. And particularly combining it with the fact that that can be said for a lot of the other mons on his team. If you wanted to revamp that bottom row, or maybe save one mon in the bottom row and throw Dugtrio in, and revamp the entire last 3 to 5 slots, then this team could become a lot better. Because again, those first 4 are gas, and Marowak Alola can definitely fit onto any team.
My gripe as well with this team comes with the lack of like bulky responses to a lot of very offensive hits. So things that are choice specs or choice banded, they really don't, like, nothing really wants to come in on those hits. Like Cresselia can only come in so many times, and then you're gonna have to take a gigantic hit with either Scizor or Hydreigon because maybe they resist those hits. But otherwise, your team is gonna get whittled down pretty easily. I like that he does, like you said, Beater, he has the Dougie, the Marowak, and the Jolteon. All those 3, they can take on electric types for Galar Zap. So maybe I could see the strategy there is that he wants Galar Zap to maybe clean up late game. That's not a bad idea. But having Cloyster be kind of like your secondary response, maybe like a Shell Smash sweeper late game, it needs something to drop first. Like Cloyster, as well as it does with the Shell Smash sweeping, it doesn't have the momentum it needs, I think, to come in, and it's only going to be coming in late game, and your opponent might still have the the response for it anyways. So I like the first couple mons, like we said, but otherwise it's hard to justify some of the other picks without the synergy that it needs.
I mean, yeah, it definitely starts off very well, but just kind of loses us after. It can be better if some transactions are done, but yeah.
Oh, there's definitely some good mons. Like again, we did say
it can definitely do work.
We'll be seeing some of the same mons for sure, unfortunately, but who knows? You could definitely pick up a lot of wins with this team. I could see it going a little bit. I don't know if he wants to push for playoffs with this, but it's definitely an interesting team.
Yep.
So for the sake of moving on, we can go up to our number 14. Chris, do you wanna reveal?
Yeah, we got Tyler B and the Villanova Torcats. Whose team is just a little underwhelming.
Yeah. When we were looking at it, I definitely saw I definitely saw the strategy there with Heatran, Tapu Bulu, Vaporeon, and then he has Mega Arrow for maybe late game, or maybe to set up with Dragon Dance early game, and then he has Necrozma. So he has a lot of really good pieces, and I think that's going to be helping him a lot, maybe early in the season. Of course, when he starts realizing that maybe he's missing a few pieces, he can start picking up some mons to kind of counter, because as good as Hitmonlee on Burden is, there's not a lot of matchups where it really can come in and do work. I've used it before, and it sometimes feels underwhelming. Of course, it's an 8-point mon, so it's not meant to feel like it's the best anyways. But I think the first couple of mons, like he could have easily have picked them up later on in the draft. I like Mega Arrow as a first pick, though. It's a weird first pick, but it's a strong mon, so pairing it nicely with a lot of other Pokemon. it might still do some work. But what do you guys think about the team here?
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, I think it's not all bad for sure. Like Arrow, Obstagoon, Necrozma are definitely mons that I think pull their own weight, but just be for the value. But one of the things and the gripes I have with this team is it's a whole lot of mons seem a lot better in theory than they do in actuality, and you pair them together and it doesn't always work out. Like Heatran is a good mon, but in terms of offensive output, it's not as it's not as powerful as you would expect. Defensive output, it's not as bulky as you would expect. Raikou, same thing. Tapu Bulu, we don't have to talk about because the flaws of that mon are quite self-evident. Hitmonlee is certainly not a bad thing in terrain for sure, but even offensive output, offensive output wise, it's not as fantastic as you would expect. Probably like needing to run high jump kick a lot of times in order to do the offensive output that you want over close combat.
Yeah.
And it's just there's a lot of pieces on this team that don't quite meet their full value, and you put those together and it creates a pretty underwhelming team.
Yeah. I really like Necrozma though. I think Necrozma can hold its own, and not just in the sense of bringing like support all the time with hazards or Moonlight or anything like that. I think he can actually clean up late game now that he has Dragon Dance and all that stuff. Gligar is an interesting pick. Nice pivot, of course. Pivots, when it comes to pivots on this team, I really only see like Vaporeon, Raikou, and Gligar. Obstagoon actually can party shot, so I guess that's okay as well. Yeah, otherwise it doesn't like it's not mediocre per se. It's just it doesn't stand out as having the offensive prowess that it needs, especially when Arrow really needs a lot of good breakers for it to clean up late game.
Agreed. I think he's got a lot of mons that don't want to be the primary breaker.
Yeah, there's no.
And he's got a lot of mons that, it's like he wants, like he's got mons that want to do other things besides breaking, preferably, and he's got mons that want to come in after the breaking is done. And the only thing that really is like to come in and chunk things hard is the Obstagoon, which not a bad one.
But not what you want.
Yeah, you can't ignore one.
It's yours. It's not even as much your primary. It's your only.
Yeah. Arrow
exactly.
Arrow is really nice because it, like, when things are chipped down, it will come in and outspeeds everything and pretty much cleans. The problem it has is like very bulky mons, especially bulky ground types. They need to be broken down before it starts, dealing some damage. So, yeah, like you have Bulu, which is good. Bulu can take out the ground types. Of course, Bulu is limited to having the coverage that it has, and it gets walled by certain poison types or just, bug types, anything like that. But yeah, Tyler, I could see the potential, like we've talked about with the other teams.
A solid team.
It's nothing for sure. I could definitely see him grabbing a couple wins here. But let's move up to our next team on the list here, and that's going to be Witchard at number 13. So, what do we think on Witchard's draft here?
Team's kind of weird. It's very unorthodox. It could do some work, but just it's not much going on.
It's a series of mons that, if you split them in half, I think could work together pretty well. But once you put those two halves together, they kind of run into each other.
I'm going to be honest. First round Celesteela, I don't know if he grabbed it first round or if he picked it up later, but it's not all that it seems anymore. First round, I think you really want to grab the mons that are prevalent in either breaking or have just a Pokemon you can centralize your team around. Steela, it's very nice defensively, and I think that's what Witchard wanted to do with the first couple of mons. He drafted Steela and Affinity. He wanted a good defensive core, and I think those two combined are nice. Of course, he needs a ground type with that, and he did get Mudsdale later.
He patched the electric overlap pretty well later on.
Yeah, Altaria, Celebi, Toxtricity, so it's not too bad there. And I think he really wanted to make sure that his draft contained that synergy that it needs. but at the same time, he didn't grab the offense that his team needs. I think like he has the Volcarona, which is good. I just don't know if he cleared any paths for Volcarona to sweep in the late game. Volcarona doesn't really need that much to get it going either. You know, it just needs a couple of mons to be broken down. It needs fire types to really be broken, which Tapu Fini can help with, I guess. Everything else on his team really doesn't like fire types. I guess Altaria can switch in on them and set up on them, though.
Yeah. Altaria is going to be thrust into a lot more of a defensive role just to cover more checks. But for the Volcarona point, I think it's less an issue of Volcarona and more an issue that you're only like the only thing that can really clear paths immediately is Weavile, and I guess a Specs Toxtricity. Everything else wants a turn to really set up and be more of a sweeper-esque mon, or to be more defensive. Like Dragon Dance Altaria, yeah, sure, but it's going to be thrust into more of a natural defensive role. Celebi Nasty Plot, yeah, sure. Calm Mind, yeah, sure, but it's going to be thrust into more of a defensive role and this hazard set role. The other thing that really, it's a niche thing, but it can cause problems, and I can, to the point of Volcarona, I can see how. For as much as Fini's Misty Terrain adds to this team, it does also impair it, because this team would really benefit from being able to toxic things from Mudsdale, even Volcarona carrying it, Omega Altaria, Celebi carrying it. Like, the ability to toxic things and slowly whittle them down so that Weavile, Volcarona, offensive Steela, or offensive Mega Altaria can come in, Toxtricity as well, can come in and really start punishing. That's impaired by Fini, who's going to be switching in a lot, setting up Mystic Terrain. We all know the Celesteela Toxic Protect seed set, and if you can't Toxic because there's the Misty Terrain up, it makes it a little bit harder, I guess, for you to run that set. But that's less the issue, because Steela can still
he could still be. It's offensive.
Less. Yeah, it not even offensive. It's like the Leech Seed is the more critical part of that set, and you can run Sub Leech, you can run Leech Protect, you can run other things just around Leech Seed, and having that other move slot for Air Slash and Heavy Slam isn't a bad thing. But it's more so when I look at the Mudsdale, the Volcarona, the Celebi, and even the Mega Altaria. Those are mons that running Toxic is something they don't really mind doing and sometimes really want to do. Like a single attack Quiver Roost Volcarona with Toxic is something you can see run. Mudsdale has that Toxic slot, can be run. Celebi has a slot for Toxic, Mega Altaria has a slot for Toxic, even Audino has a slot for Toxic. These are things they're going to want to run Toxic to chip things down so that Volcarona and Weavile and DD Mega Altaria or Shifty or Toxtricity can come in late game and really be those finishing threats. But without the ability to Toxic, that's kind of a problem for a team that lacks sufficient breaking power.
Yeah, I think just in general. No, you go ahead, Chris. Go ahead.
I'd say that Misty Train doesn't really benefit him that much, because what are you super worried about getting Toxic? Like Mudsdale, but Celebi has Natural Cure, and you can't Toxic Celesteela or Toxtricity, and if your Weavile gets Toxic, it's not that big a deal. And plus you have Heal Bill and Altaria. Misty Train doesn't really help very much.
I do like that Misty Terrain doesn't hinder the Altaria, though, because Altaria normally doesn't run any dragon moves anyways, so it's not going to be worried about that. But otherwise, in a more grand scheme of things, yes, Misty Terrain isn't going to be as helpful as it should be, especially if Fini needs to be a primary defogger here. I get Altaria can be.
That's the other thing.
Altaria can be, Girder can be, Volcarona actually gets the fog, but anyways.
You don't have the slots for that. Also, the mon that's weakest the most rocks defogging.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. So, Witchard's team, definitely an interesting build for sure. I think it had potential. It tried to be as synergetic as it could be. We'll see how he does with it. But again, for the sake of moving up, guys, you want to reveal the next coach up there?
Or if I can quickly scroll up. Of course, it'd be none other than one Jolie.
Joel at number 12. What do we think? What do we think about Joel here?
The team.
it's something.
It's something to behold.
Look, we all know Mega Mawile. We know what that thing does. We know what that thing is capable of doing. And he has the Slowking providing that Trick Room threat. Clefable's a great Mon. I think on this team, it's not its full self, but it's very few teams. I think Clefable is more Mon that brings out the best in other teams more than other teams can bring out the best in it.
Mhm.
But I think it's got some solid Mons, but the way they mesh together isn't quite the way you dream up.
I think Joel has a little bit of everything. He has a little bit of some good, and he has a little bit of some bad, and then he's missing a whole bunch of middle. So he has like the first three Mons there. I think are really nice synergetically. They do well together. Obviously, Clefable can teleport, bring in Mega Mawile. Slowking can actually do that as well, right? Slowking sets up Trick Rooms, teleports, brings in Mega Mawile. I could see that strategy being good for a couple weeks until people start to pick up on it. But also, the other options that he brings to the table, bringing Urshifu, Rapid, and Salazzle, Serena, and then Tauros, they all do have potential, but they kind of they pale in comparison to his greater offense that he has with Mega Mawile. I think Joel really wanted to draft a team around Mega Mawile, and he did well for the most part. I think he definitely covered a lot of Mawile's weaknesses, being ground, fire, and that's mainly just in like his lower tiered Mons. Otherwise, he didn't cover Clef being weak to he covered Clef a little bit. He covered it with Mawile and Zygarde, so it's not too bad. I think what we were saying before was that this team, apart from the Tauros and Liepard, really struggles with offensive ghost types. Or it struggles with offensive breakers in general because a lot of his Pokemon are just very frail. Barring the first couple Mons, Salazzle being as frail as it is, Arrow. Serena is nice and bulky, so we don't have to talk about that. Liepard and Tauros, unfortunately, they're pretty frail. I'm not gonna say Vespiquen isn't bulky. It's actually gotten better now that it has toxic spikes and the fog and stuff, but I don't know how often he's gonna bring it. So
yeah. And I mean, Zy 50 is one of those Mons that's not particularly as great as the point value makes it seem.
Mm-hmm.
And on this team in particular, it's kind of thrusted into an uncomfortable position because it needs to be Dragon Dance more than it wants to because of kind of the way the speed breaks down up top. Like Dactyl can Dragon Dance, which can help kind of protect things up top, and you have Prankster Liepard, as well as Salazzle speed tier, but it has to Dragon Dance a lot of times to cover those speed gaps, and that's not always what it wants to do. It wants to be more coil, wants to be more defensive, annoying sets with 1,000 arrow spam.
Yep.
So you're not going to see the best of Zygarde on this team, which is a little bit unfortunate. But the Mon does pair well with Clef and Mega Maw, and the bulk it does provide is actually moderately useful here.
Yes, I think you're right. I think we can all see the strategy in the first couple Mons, and there's no denying. I think he can do well with it. I think he can easily pivot around and grab some momentum with his team, and then break with Mega Mawile. But the point is that after Mega Mawile breaks his opponent's team, what is he gonna do? I guess he's going to set up with Zygarde. I guess he's going to try to break with Urshifu. There's just a lot that kind of gets left over because he's put into a spot where he needs to be able to chip down the rest of his opponent's team after Mega Mawile drops. Once Mega Mawile drops, it doesn't look the best for Joel.
Agreed.
Yeah. The one thing I just would like to compliment on this team is it's built very well around Mega Mawile, I think. because like the multiple things that could teleport into it is just very helpful for Mega Man WoW.
I agree.
Having a free
sure.
switch in.
Mm-hmm.
I think the Slowking and Clefable are very good for this team. Like I think it's solid, but just I don't know.
The one thing I feel
Pretty
like
slow
they
up
could,
top.
the one thing I feel like they could make a team substantively better is just having a better dark type, but more so a better knockoff user. Like Mega Mall can click knockoff for sure, but having a second one would be very much appreciated.
Clef and
Not just
Salaz will
because
get it.
knocking off items is the same. I mean, I meant better ones for a reason. But not just because knockoff is a great move to have, but also because being able to knock off Rocky helmets, like Serena also is one that gets it. That actually is a moderate user, but being able to knock off Rocky helmets will free up Urshifu Rapid to actually use its signature move in Surging Strikes, which is a very big plus for Urshifu Rapid. The biggest thing that this mon has that detracts it and makes it a 14-point mon, outside of a slightly annoying typing defensively, is Surging Strikes is an easy way to rack up, I think, like 42 damage from Rocky Helmet, or 42% damage from Rocky Helmet. And you really, really don't want that when it's going to be thrust into doing some of your breaking rule or some of your cleanup rules. So if you can get a secondary knockoff user on this team to drop off some of those Rocky helmets, they're going to be annoying. That's not only going to help Mega Mawile from taking the damage, but it's also going to help Urshifu Rapid actually abuse Surging Strikes.
I will say he does have a lot of good gimmicks on this team, though. We're just gonna wrap up, Joel, but he does have some interesting gimmicks that I could see him bringing, like special Life Orb Sheer Force Tauros. Liebird can be interesting with Nasty Blood. Salazzle Toxic Protect sub, obviously that's a thing that can't be stopped, especially if his entire team is slower. There's some nice things that he has going for him here, and if his opponent doesn't prepare for the other stuff and only prepares for the Mawile, Clefable, and Zygarde, it could be he could have an advantage going into the game. But yeah, guys, let's move up to our number 11th coach, and that's going to be Rummy. Simi, you wanna talk about Rummy?
Yeah, we got Rummy's theme here. It's very him. He drops a lot of unorthodox things. I think this team has pretty good synergies throughout, but like the main issue that we had with it is the wall breaking ability. It's not.
Yeah, there just wasn't like we could see Landorus being wall breaker. We could see Chandelure and Beedrill. The point is that we need some spammable moves in order for them to become great. Like spamming EQ with Landorus is always a plus, right? It's just that the opponents nowadays, they've come to understand that Landorus is a huge threat if you don't have a ground resist or anything that can take on Landorus's gigantic EQs. So that's always going to be something that your opponent preps for. Now, the way to get around that is to break your opponent's responses for Landorus. Landorus being a round one pick is actually pretty interesting.
Yeah, I was going to say, I'm going to hold my tongue about Landorus being taken over the things that were taken after it.
Yeah.
But one of the things that I do think we also want to touch on this team is there are a lot of mons that provide something to this team that is actually useful, but a lot of the secondary jobs that they like to do aren't quite as utilized as they usually are. Like, I think Landorus Corv is a fantastic pairing of two mons, but when I look at a thing like Sylveon, which its wish passing will be much appreciated, but it can't really be, it's not as free to Calm Mind as it would like to be, or be like a spec set as it would like to be. When I look at Starmie, its spinning ability is great, but again, one of those mons where if you have a team that can really force a lot of switches, Starmie gets flip turn, by the way, correct?
Yeah.
Or am I tripping off that?
No, it gets flip turn. And
if you have a team that forces...
And Meteor Beam.
Okay, cool. So if you have a team that can force a lot of switches, can get in some good matchups, Starmie can actually take advantage of that analytic, but because the water psychic typing is a little bit easy to pick off, and this team isn't as pliable as you would like, it has pivot options, but they're not always able to come. That kind of limits Starmie's analytic ability, because a lot of the things that are already being run to take on other mons also can really hurt Starmie hard.
I'm gonna be honest. I really like Rummy's Firewater Grass Core here, being Starmie, Chandelure, and Chestnut, because Chestnut Bulletproof takes on those Shadow Balls for Starmie and Chandelure, and obviously Chestnut takes on the Rock type moves for Chandelure as well, and they're all just very bulky in their own way because Chandelure also gets the Flash Fire. I do like that core. The thing is that he's missing a few things that allow him to take advantage of his opponents. Like if he gets enough momentum, because like we said, Starmie gets that flip turn. Rummy, he can't really take advantage too much of momentum. Besides Beedrill coming in and clicking U-turn a lot. You would want to get in a strong wall breaker in order to start dealing some damage and then clean up late game, maybe with Landorus or something. Chandelure can take advantage of it somewhat because it can come in and click a nice powerful Shadow Ball or a Fire move, but it's just not fast enough unless you're running Choice Scarf. So there are some lackluster options when it comes to Rummy's offensive breakers. Like he really has to decide what the best offensive breaker before he starts thinking about what his late game plan is. And it's going to be tough because a lot of times Sylveon, I think we were saying, I don't know if it can be Specs or Combine, but it doesn't have a lot of options otherwise because it's the primary cleric in this match. I'm just looking at it. He does have webs, actually, now that I noticed, but besides other Pokemon that want to take advantage of it, Beedrill otherwise is very strong, but doesn't want to stay in a lot of turns. So,
a lot of mons are forced into doing the same job week in and week out. Like Lando can't take full offensive advantage because it's gonna have to do a lot of stealth rocking. Corv can't always do a lot of its bulk up sets because it's gonna have to do a lot of defogging and a lot of mons are just limited because they have to fill rules, which is annoying, but a lot of them also do a lot of good things, so that's why it's not as far down the list.
Yeah, and something that I was thinking is it's setup sweeping options are just kind of limited. That's all Noon does, but Lando T's not going to be set up every week. Neither is Corv, Sylveon. There's no big conventional setup sweeper.
The setup sweepers, Landorus can set up
there's no
Swords Dance,
Haxorus or
obviously, but
Dual Dance Lando is fair. Curse Luck.
Curse Muck.
There are options, obviously, but nothing that you'd.
Yeah, nothing that your opponent wouldn't already try to prep for anyways. I can see what you're saying. So it definitely limits Rummy's ability to really pressure his opponent. But who knows? Rummy can be a decent coach, and I think his team has potential.
He works with some weird stuff.
Yeah.
He likes bug types. Why does he have two bug types?
Yeah, he has two. He has Galvantula.
And there's no Illumise. What are you doing?
All right, let's move up. We got our number 10 in George and his Tectonic Typhlosions. So we're starting to look at some more bulky offensive teams with a lot more synergy, I think. This team, it's definitely it definitely has the prowess to be a great team. It has Urshifu, obviously, which is a really strong breaker in itself, and if you don't watch out, it might be able to set up a sub or set up some bulk ups, and it might sweep you. But it has some good backbone as well. It has Aggron and Melodic. That's really it. But he has a lot of offensive breakers as well, being Mamoswine, and Thundurus can set up, of course. Floatzel I've come to respect now because it gets flip turn, but I don't see it coming more often than Melodic would. Is that really round 3 Crobat, or did he take that in?
That is around.
That is actually that's a good question.
I'm not sure. Looks like one.
I want to say it was around 3.
It's around 3 Crobat, yeah.
But I could be wrong. I don't know.
Pretty sure it is.
Well,
yeah, it's around 3 Crobat.
I guess he wanted it for some reason, but it
If you
might
really
have been
want
a
it,
little.
you gotta take.
Yeah, you're right. If if you think it's necessary, scoop it up immediately.
Big Crobat guy.
And I mean, it's not 4, 5, and 6 weren't supremely compromised as a result, but for rounds 2 and 3, I think he could have absolutely gotten a lot better than Mega Aggron and Crobat.
Yeah, Melodic Mamoswine Thundy is pretty good for 4, 5, and 6.
I mean, I could see
His
those
top
coming
picks are
in.
very good.
Um,
Like his a big issue is his removal options are pretty limited.
Yeah.
Like I mean, Silvally, Crobat, Thundy. I mean, they're not like Thundy. You're not usually wanting to run defog.
mhm.
Neither Crobat. Like Silvally's decent, but like
Thundy.
I'd look less at his. No, go for it.
No, I was just gonna say Thundy. It sometimes has the room for defog, but more often than not, you kind of need some coverage options, or U-turn, or taunt, or Thunder Wave. There's a lot of things.
Yeah, as I
that
say, I
can-
think it's big. Like Thundy's probably in the spot where it could have run defog, sure, but it prefers its status move to be taunt
Exactly.
pretty much every time.
Yeah.
For
zero
me,
P-Wave.
that too. For me, the thing that jumps out off this team is you're asking a lot of Mega Aggron and Milotic to do the defensive legwork. Not that they can't do it, but
they're real bulky. Yeah.
usually if you're gonna put two Mons that are gonna be the core centerpieces of your defense, you want them both to be able to have reliable recovery. Milotic has recover, which by all means that's reliable recovery.
Yeah.
But Aggron's gonna be thrusted into running rest more often than not, and that's not always something you want to have to create space for.
He's got
Like,
creativity. I think
he-
it hits.
I mean,
I mean, he can take
He can
hits,
take
but
hits, like-
weaknesses do overlap.
Yeah,
His
but he's
weaknesses do
certainly not
overlap a
bringing
lot
it
of the
very
team.
often.
mhm.
Yeah.
So Cradilly is interesting because it's not exactly like he needs Storm Drain too often, and unless he's pairing it with Mamoswine or something, or Delphox. I understand what you're saying with the recovery though, Beater, against Aggron, because Rest Talk Aggron is pretty common, but it's not like something that you want to run every single week. I do understand that he has the Slurpuff and the Delphox that can wish up. Slurpuff is an interesting one because although it can be a cleric, it's mostly known and it'll do more work, honestly, if it's belly draw more offensive. But having webs and stuff like that on his team might actually just be more utility, because Urshifu might actually just appreciate that a lot more than having like a belly drum Slurpuff in the back. I think Urshifu does appreciate having webs on his side.
And so is Mamoswine.
Mamoswine also
Yeah.
does as well, so that's
More
not too
free
bad.
to one life orb and band sets.
So I could see it definitely doing some work, and if he wants to take that strategy for most weeks, then by all means. I just think that eventually people are gonna they're gonna get smart to his tactics there, and also like Crobat, as good as it is with Hurricane now, I think it's still gonna be filling the same role that it normally does with pivoting or just defogging and just being pretty annoying in general.
It's going to be a lot of taunt, super fang, U-turn, and like flying move or roost or whatever,
Mhm.
because it's going to want to pivot out. It's going to want to draw out slower Mons, pivot out, and then let Urshifu click the funny move.
Yeah. So, all right. Yeah, George's team
Team George.
definitely a good solid team. I can see him going far with it, but we definitely had some stronger teams above him that had to place him lower. So let's move up actually. After George, we placed Piranha at number 9, Piranha Plant. And this was one that we were contemplating for a while, because Piranha's team, if you look at it, the first couple Mons are starting to look very nice, and then you drop off and you have a Lantern as your water type. You have an extra steel type in Mawile, which is something to say the least. You have another dark type in Drapion.
A Mega Houndoom without Sun.
Without Sun.
This team gets kind of a mess after Dragonite.
Yeah. The
Like-
plus of this team, and I know we're going to talk about this team backwards, but so be it. Y'all can live with it. It's very easily fixable. Like, it can go from kind of a mess into a genuinely threatening team pretty quickly with a couple of FA moves.
Mm-hmm.
But
Man needs some
once
sun.
you get past the Rillaboom, everything kind of runs into each other. And I know, Chris, you're going to talk about this as the Mew aficionado, but this team is thrusting Mew into more defensive roles than it's going to
Mew doesn't
want.
deserve that.
It's going to be thrust into more defensive roles than it wants. Togekiss is going to be thrusted into more defensive roles than it wants. And that's problematic in and of itself, but it's especially problematic with this team because outside of Mew and Togekiss, you got nothing with special breaking power. Mega Doom, Nasty Plot, sure, I'll give you that, but the thing's a glass cannon and the thing needs sun, like in Sun compared to that plot set is such a
Mega Doom could become a special breaker, but it just doesn't.
Like it can
have
set
the
up,
tools right
it
now.
can set up its own Sun, but really it needs that support, right?
Don't do
And
that.
like
Get a Torkoal.
Houndoom literally has no switch-ins in Sun. I like there's a couple of specific mons that really want to take it on, but you know, you don't exactly have the support there. And Drapion is almost kind of redundant because yeah, you have T-Spikes and another Dark type, but your Dark type's already Houndoom, and you have T-Spikes on Fortress. Maybe you wanted the knockoff, but you know, you have knockoff with Mew, I guess. I don't know. Piloswine I don't think gets knockoff. I think that's just Mamo. But
it is not. It is worth mentioning that for Mega Doom, some of those switch-ins can be manufactured with the utility umbrella out. But at the same time, if you know something switching into with a utility umbrella, that's free turn to Nasty Plot.
Exactly.
So I think
or a flame charge or something like
still stands. Yeah, the point still stands that if you want to get the best out of Plot or get the best out of Mega Doom, you pick up a Mon with Sun, and it doesn't make your team substantially weaker because between Drapion, Fortress, Lantern, Mawile, that's 24 points. They can be reallocated into a better water type and a Sunsetter, and you're golden.
Well, another steel type would be nice too, actually.
Yeah, steel as well.
Yeah, that's true. But
yeah.
I was gonna say, like, we're skipping over the fact that he has Dragonite too, and we're not doing that on purpose. Like, Dragonite's great and all.
Solid.
It's just that like, I don't know how necessary it is on this team when your breakers are already like Rillaboom and Terrakion.
Yeah.
They kind of just do the work already. But it's a nice dragon type to have, obviously. Like in the late game, you know, multi-skill Dragonite sets up and kind of just does the work. You're expecting the late game to come closer than it normally does because you still need to break before you get there. And a lot of what you have already is tailored to sweeping in the late game. You have Terrakion and Rillaboom. Togekiss and Mew can help during like the early game or like mid to late. But Dragonite just kind of sits there until the late game comes around, and it's kind of useless at that point. So it's nice. I'd like to see maybe like a Kyurem or something like that. It's probably taken already, but I'm just trying to like find another good dragon type that could potentially replace it.
I mean, if he wants to if the dragon typing is the big thing, what I would say is Dragon Knight's offensive kind of skill set isn't as utilized here as we talked about because Boom and Terrakion just do its job so much better.
Yeah.
But if you were to replace Dragonite with Salamence, you're going to
that's what I was actually going to say. That
defensive utility out of that typing.
Yeah. And you get better
special as well.
Better speed here.
Powerful Dracos.
Yeah, some better special offense. I think some better speed. It's not
better.
the perfect solution, but of the realistically available
on
ones,
this team.
let me just quick check. Yes, Salamence is available. Like, I think the ability to take Salamence over Dragonite, and then that point, as you kind of look to shore up some of the other things with this team, that extra point can be invested into, like we were talking about, a better water. Torkoal sunsetting isn't as big because you could just hard swap that with Fortress, but like a better water and a better steel along with Salamence over Dragonite, and you're kind of like increasing this team's viability exponentially.
Mm-hmm.
He's got a solid team that could. I think a couple changes could make it like one of the top teams.
We did say it was like the potential team, which is why it's sitting at like number 9. But let's move up, guys. We got 8 more coaches to go through. So number 8, we do have Stanny B. And we were looking at this team for a while, and we were trying to place it. I think we started at the bottom, and then it went up a little bit more. Looking at it more, obviously, it has a lot of good pieces. especially with the top 6. And Manaphy, I guess you can count if you want to, but I love the Latios
It does a
Age
job.
Slash, the Manaphy without Tail Glow. Manaphy Age Slash and Manaphy, Mandibuzz, Latios, and Age Slash, all very good together. I like those 3 together. And then he has
take a round 5 Mega Medicham.
round 5 Mega Medicham is interesting.
I got some questions on how we got there, but we got there. So
That's all that matters.
Yeah, and then he has P2 in order to pivot out into Mega Medi, and then obviously bring in things like Age Slash or Latios. He has some nice pivoting answers, being Mandibuzz, Porygon. I guess Manaphy can kind of count. Otherwise, everything kind of just stays in and hits what's in front of them, which isn't the worst because he has good breakers like Mega Medicham and Latios and Age Slash, which obviously Age Slash can do a lot of different things, being either King Shield protects Toxic or set up and sweep, or just be Specs or Life Orb. So it's a nice pick. I don't know if it's a round 1 pick, but again, he did have the wheel, so it didn't really make a difference at that point.
I think both it and Latios are kind of like those perfect wheel, like not quite around 1, but better than around 2 Mons.
Yeah.
So you take both of them on the wheel, no complaints. I think the biggest gripe on this team is among those first 6 Mons, none of them really like taking a knockoff.
Yeah,
knockoff.
Like
very, very knockoff.
Mandibuzz can take it damage wise, but it doesn't want to lose its boots. Nidoqueen would like to keep its Black Sludge or Life Orb. Medicham actually takes substantive damage. Porygon 2 likes its Violet, and then AG and Latios are both weak.
Garamatisse is really the only thing on the team that doesn't hate taking a knockoff, but even then, it likes its leftovers, obviously.
Yeah.
I mean, Manaphy can. Like, Manaphy and, well, not really Magmortar. Manaphy can, but Manaphy's only coming to so many matches.
Yeah.
So, like, that's probably the biggest gripe in that and losing items or taking that knockoff chip can rear its head later down the line in matches. But if that's like the biggest gripe on a team, that's kind of why it's in the top half.
Yeah.
Like having Quilladin and Magmortar as your fire and grass type is obviously not ideal.
Quilladin, like, he's nice for Spike Stack, and obviously he's a nice low tier pick, I think. I just don't think it was necessary to grab him at like round 9. I don't know. I'm maybe it would have been nice, but with him having like it would have been 11 extra points, grabbing Quilladin, I don't know if it made all the difference in the world. Because first of all, like, you have the bulk necessary already. I guess just having spikes is what he wanted to go for. So I don't know. Yeah. It's a really
in fairness, there was kind of like fulfilling those roles with the 11 points. There weren't a lot of like great options to take one Salamon and one good low pointer. Like,
that's fair.
More than likely would have been 7 points plus the Raichu or 7 points plus the Magmortar. And with the 7 points, there aren't a lot of great grass or electric types. Like, the best one is probably a Lochu, or Road and Frost, actually, would probably be the best one to me.
Road and Frost
which
would be better,
they could fit into this team decently well. Yeah. But I think each role, which is more than you can say about some of the other Mons that people have drafted.
When you
speed tiers in this team are also a little suspect.
When you look at
he's got 2 110s, 2 100s.
I was literally about to talk about the speed tiers. You can go ahead, Chris.
Yeah, I mean, he's got a lot of overlapping speed tiers with his fast stuff, and then it goes from like Medicham to Nidoqueen pretty much, because Mandibuzz isn't going to be running speed. Like, the speed tiers are pretty bad on this team.
The speed tier is like is literally just Latios, and then Medicham, I guess, and like Manaphy, comes. I think Manaphy for the most part nowadays becomes a pivot. It's a very nice, still like bulky water type with Calm Mind, so it's not like the worst thing in the world. It doesn't have recovery, but it could still do.
It's a pivot that can do some choiced things, but it's a shadow of what it used to be. But then you have things like the Aromatisse,
which can be wish passing, which I can understand for what it is. Aromatisse isn't the greatest fairy, we all know that, but for what it does on this team, it isn't the worst thing in the world. For the most part, I can always see like the top 6 coming, so it's still really nice to have like, you know, extra support whenever you need it. My gripe is just that it's not going to be like the best support for the most part. It's either going to be Aromatisse coming or Manaphy. And if he wants to bring Magmortar for like a random Scizor matchup, that's not bad at all. So
yeah, we can move on to the next coach.
Yeah, we can move up.
We have Leonard.
We have Leonard at number 7. Leonard and his Azelf, Alkmaar. Another team that was pretty hard to place for reasons where, a lot of the teams kind of just meshed together, and there were a lot of good teams and some bad teams. But Leonard, he's good enough to be in the top there. So number 7.
For sure. I think it's worth mentioning, kind of like as we, at this spot particularly, you can really break down the Guardians PR into 3 separate sections. You have kind of the top echelon, which we're going to get to once we get to it. You'll see very much the demarcation in that. You have kind of this middle section of probably like 5 through 8, 5 through 9 of teams that are a couple pieces away from being fantastic, but in their current state, they're kind of stuck in the middle. And then you have the other teams where there's kind of a substantive drop-off in their capabilities. And I think this team very much embodies kind of this middle section of there's a lot of good things going on, but the bad things are very hard to overlook.
So the thing about Leonard's team is that every Pokemon that he has is really good, in my opinion. Like there's a Dugong there, yeah, but everything else,
he's
like
having a good time.
everything else kind of has a nice role on his team, and I do like the fact that he has Zoroark, paired with some nice psychic types where, he can obviously just illusion himself, make them it's just nice coverage in my opinion. But obviously you can see that he has sand options as well with Dracozolt and Garchomp, and then he has some really good pivots in Slowbro Tornadus. So there's a lot of good things going for him here, and then I think with those good things he missed out on capitalizing on a couple of other things which make it so that we kind of placed him in a more of a lower role there. Like he's missing a few utility options that would have helped him, things like Defog. He only has Tornadus really and Whimsicott.
I think removal could have been a little bit improved. Also, defensively, there's a lot of weakness overlap, which is not ideal.
Not good against dark types, slide.
Particularly for a team that is not particularly defensively sturdy. There's good defensive bonds, but not a surplus of them. So the fact that there's overlaps defensively is kind of problematic.
I think
a couple other pieces that I think are worth mentioning. To your point about Zoroark, it's good that he also has a lot of U-turning pivot options, because that allows Zoroark's illusion ability to actually be really optimized. You can't actually tell if it's a Zoroark because of clipped U-turn, whereas Tornti, like with Tornti, Whim, and Infernape, they can U-turn as well. But the one thing that, for me, to the point about defense, that is worth mentioning is, good God, he has a ghost type problem.
So
just
we're going to get to that
and look at this team. I just want someone to explain to me what he does in that situation.
There's some matchups that Spectrier, Gengar, and some of these other good ghost types.
Really offensive ghost types, Aegislash, and anything that can really hit hard. Zoroark's not going to be taking those hits, and I think to the point of defense, like Beater was bringing up. There's not too much that wants to take a really strong special hit. You might have to run Assault Vest on a couple of things. Obviously, Gigalith is very bulky. Bronzong can be bulky.
Take a couple, but it'll easily get whittled.
Yeah. I think your best special bet is Gigalith. The problem being that means you have to run that means Gigalith needs rest that week. Yeah. So you're going to see a lot of rest Gigalith sets coming.
And it's a Gigalith. It's not the best. Probably you want to be relying on for specialty defense.
And Torn
it's serviceable, but that's the best.
Torn can run Torn can run the assault vest, but that means he's not going to be running defog, or he's not going to be.
Or boots.
Yeah,
Yeah,
exactly. Not
like,
going to be boots or a nasty plot.
On this team, boots is going to be more important than the AV.
Exactly.
Because rock damage is problematic.
Mm-hmm. So it's hard for him to pivot out into really strong breakers, especially Ghost. Even like dark types can really do some work here. His Whimsicott is nice being there. I don't know how often he wants to bring it though. If he wants to bring Sand, if he wants to bring Infernape. I do like his offensive options though. Obviously being the Mega Garchomp really hits hard. Dracozolt under Sand now can really hit hard. He's not going to be Hustle, but I guess he could still bring Hustle. Like he doesn't have to bring Sand Rush.
He doesn't have to bring Gigalith every week because Dracozolt and Mega Garchomp can easily work out of Sand. Like they don't need Sand. Sand just helps.
Exactly. Yeah.
So it's good for that.
Sand
because
Sand
you
does
don't want to bring
them,
Gigalith every week.
Yeah, but Sand does make them a lot better, and they're also better. Like Mega Chomp for sure is better positioned to actually take advantage of Sand. Because for those unaware, it did get Scale Shot.
So it can boost
even
its
though
speed.
he loses his defense, it can effectively Dragon Dance in Sand because the Sand boost is just short of the 1.5
exactly.
and 1.3. So
the attack is just ridiculous.
It's already at
and it's got
170 anyway.
170 attack.
Yeah.
So like
Mega
in
Garchomp
Sand,
carry.
that thing can be a lot more optimized than it used to be. Plus, the team's got overall good setup with Plot Torn, Infernape that can do everything, Plot, Zoroark, but we've talked about the defensive shortcomings, and those are hard to overlook, and that's how you end up at the 7th spot.
Yep. Very good offensive options, but lacking in some other places.
Exactly. So with Nard there, we can actually move up to our number 6, and that's going to be Keith Sheldon. So this is the one team that was kind of awkward to place as well. I think Beater already, split up the PRs already, but I guess we can talk about it later. But I kind of want to mention it right now. There is no Dark type on this team, and
It's a problem.
without a Dark type, it doesn't only make Ghost spam kind of hard. Yes, he has the Blissey. It makes Dark types a lot harder to switch. No, it makes Psychic types a lot harder to switch into. And when you have a Mega Venusaur there, you kind of want a Psychic switch in, and Kartana, it doesn't really count. So, I'm not saying.
Also doesn't switch into Dark types. So you're right about that.
I was gonna say you didn't mean to say Dark types, but
Yancy
that part
and
is also
Poliwrath
true.
are the only switch-ins to Dark types, and you don't want to bring those.
There's that too.
Like that part is also true.
So
The plus side of this team is whoops.
No, I was just gonna say, we were talking about the cons already on this team, but there are some really good points to this draft as well. I'll let you guys talk about them.
For sure. The plus side of this team is, I think it's pretty much the inverse of a lot of these other teams we'll be talking about, that it has solid defense. It's got a lot of good defensive options, and some of its mons that can kind of sit in the middle, like to run more defense than offense nowadays. Gliscor, we know what that thing does. Noivern has the space now to run more HP variant sets with Taunt, Defog, Super Fang, all that good stuff. I think he gets I might have forgotten.
It does, yeah.
I don't know.
Yeah.
I've forgotten more about mons in the past week, but whatever. And it's got Darmanitan and Kartana to do some solid physical breaking work, and Azelf to do it on the special side.
Yeah.
But it is in a very weird place of needing a lot of things from a lot of mons that it just, it's asking a lot of mons. It's going to stretch the bandwidth of Azelf pretty thin, because as much as Azelf wants to be kind of doing other stuff, whether it be lead rockers with explosion, whether it be master plot setup, it's going to need space for coverage moves.
Yeah.
Whether Darmanitan wants to be a band set or be sheer force life orb, it's going to be forced into Scarf a lot of times. So there is space for it to really be a good team offensively, but it's going to be done having to stretch the bandwidth of its offensive mons very thin.
Yeah, and I think Azelf's in a good spot though, because you probably not going to have to run rocks on this team, because he's got Gliscor, Blissey, and Diancie.
He does
Very
have
good
a lot of good
rockers.
options. Yeah.
Defog on this team as well with Rotom and Gliscor. Then a lot of good turning abilities like Azelf, Storm, Rotom, Gliscor, Noivern, like a lot of pivoting.
Yeah, a lot
options.
of pivoting options, a lot of defensive bulk as well with Venusaur, Rotom, Wash, Blissey, like you said, Gliscor. I like that his Fire, Water, Grass core, being what it is, it can be offensive, and then he has options for defensive as well, because Mega Venusaur and Rotom Wash kind of cover the defensive side. I think the point is that like a really strong like specific breaker can kind of take advantage, especially if it's a psychic type, and psychic types you really have to watch out for. I guess we can also throw in dark types like you guys said, like special psychic types or special dark types. Well, I guess Blissey can kind of take them on, now that I think about it.
Yeah, Blissey's, it's very clear special wall, and Mega Venusaur can do some legwork on that front.
Mm-hmm.
But I would actually say it's more the physical side that
Yeah, I mean, Gliscor
Venusaur
takes on physical stuff.
a lot of legwork.
Yeah,
Like Gliscor can do some, like Gliscor can take physical hits, but you want it to be able to also have the HP and the pliability to do other stuff,
yeah,
like set up Swords Dance, click Facade, click Earthquake, and win.
exactly.
But the fact that should Gliscor get chipped, it's physical leg. There's going to be a lot of physical legwork having to be done by Rotom Wash, Mega Venusaur, and even like a Deontay or Kartana that don't want to take a whole lot of physical attacks. So I think on the special side, those psychic and dark type problems can be solved.
They can be.
But
It's just I'm gonna name an example. I'm gonna name an example that might be hard for him when it comes time. I know that Reuniclus is a big threat, and not everything can be Reuniclus, but if you are Acid Armor, Calm Mind, Stored Power, it's going to be doing some work. I don't know how much it takes to beat the Blissey, but it's definitely going to be wrecking your team. So you definitely want to cover that up with, I don't know, a Dark type or just a very offensive Ghost type.
Fortunately for him, no one actually drafted Reuniclus, so he skated on that one.
All right, he's safe there.
I
Just have to watch out for those Necrozma.
He skated on two fronts because I don't believe anyone drafted Gothitelle either.
Oh, there you go.
No one did not.
Okay, so we can move up actually because we've talked about Keith for a little bit.
We got Shrek.
We have Shrek for Smash at number 5, and now we're getting into our top 5 guys, and I think all of us, actually Eagle included, I'm not sure if he included Shrek in his top 5, but we accepted that the top 5 they went from the lower enchilada into like the top tiers, so they're gonna start looking like some more solid drafted teams. Not that they weren't already, but coaches and teams that might have a strong push for playoffs, especially early in the season. So let's look at Shrek's team, guys. What do you think?
Yeah, just to finish up on Man's point, to the point I had mentioned earlier, I think the top 5 is where you're going to see kind of that third tier begin, or that first tier, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah.
But this team, you look at its first 5 picks, and this is like it's fantastic. Like Zera, Mega Guard, Kyurem, Ferrothorn, Lycan Dusk. I think those all gel together quite well, and Moltres support with them, as well as Jellicent support with them, is pretty ideal.
Jellicent and Ferrothorn work well together.
I really like the Jellicent and Ferrothorn together. They're really nice. Jellicent to just strength sap, or just like Willow and chip them that way, where Ferrothorn could come in later and just hazard stack them. Obviously they get shut down by taunt sometimes, or sub, or anything like that, but that's why you have things like Hyper Voice Gardevoir to go through subs, and you have Zero Aura to outspeed the taunters. There's some good qualities to this draft for sure, and there's a Porygon too, so that's not neither here nor there, but I think
we're reaching a little bit with that one. It is there, but I feel like that's the most we're going to be saying about Porygon this season.
He's having a good time.
Yeah, I think Donphan does a job on this team. I wouldn't say like
it's just not a good mon.
not
It
the ideal
spins,
ground type
so
here.
it's not the
but-
worst.
Yeah, not the ideal ground type, but check some boxes. And I think, if I remember correct, there weren't a lot of better available ground types around like that point spread. So
Hmm. Well, it definitely does the work that it's required to do. I think it spins, sets up hazards, maybe pressures with EQ, and has sturdy, so it'll take on some big threats if it needs to. Specifically, Reggielecki, if it's floating around. But I think one of my gripes was the Skun Tank, and of course we talked about it earlier, guys, when we were talking about Skun Tank. Like, you never, like Chris said, you never really want Skun Tank, but for what it provides, it can help you check off some boxes, being a dark type and having some defogging options. Otherwise, it's gonna have explosion and poison stab. Or maybe
Sometimes the
finding
mon that you take when you have 10 points left and you realize, oh, I don't have a dark or poison type. Shit.
yeah.
Probably
then you
fix
just
that.
pick up a 6-pointer and something.
Mhm.
I think I would have liked. I don't know when Crook went. I feel like if you took Skun Tank and Non-Fan turned that into Crook and
I don't
something else,
remember
that
seeing
would've been-
Crook anywhere.
I'm sure he would.
we're gonna talk about. I remember we're gonna talk about Crook with one of these later teams.
Okay.
Oh, true. Yeah.
But I would have liked that would have been the dream scenario here. I'm looking at kind of just where the dark types and ground types were around. There weren't a whole lot, so I can understand how you end up at Skun Tank.
Mm.
But yeah, for a dark type and for a poison type, you would have liked something a little bit more serviceable.
Yeah,
Yeah.
this team has very good special and physical offense. Like, Zera, Kirim, Lycanroc, Dusk are very good
I really like them
physical
together.
offense, and then Kirim can be special, and then also Mega Gardevoir and Moltres. Like, you got some great options there.
Yeah.
Yep.
Those offensive
And
options
most
are
of his
very nice.
core offensive bonds you can set up.
Hmm.
And most of the core offensive bonds
Yeah.
provide set up Common Guard,
It's a good
DD
team.
Kirim,
It's a,
Swords Dance like him does.
it's
Sarah
a
does
good
both,
draft.
So
I think it's a good draft for the meta that this division kind of came to, because it can kind of take on a lot of stuff that went, and then he has options in his lower picks there with Jellicent. I like Jellicent being probably brought to a lot more games than Lycanroc might be, although Lycanroc is nice for late game. So it's a really good team in my opinion. There's a lot of good
team.
qualities there.
All right, we can move on from there.
next
Then
up,
we got
Next up we have
is Cammy.
Cammy boy at number 4.
Kami's team is fun.
Yeah,
I mean, Lando
Kami's
and
team-
Megalop. I mean,
That is a sheer force Lando Eye. Let's get
that is
that
a sheer
in.
And the
force
Megalop
Lando
in it.
Eye at the first round pick. So that's definitely qualifies for a first round pick right there. And
it's a scary team.
it's very nice offensively, and it has some backbone to kind of back it up. Landorus, Reggielecki. I remember talking to Cammy through DMs, and I was just telling him like it's a really strong offensive core because not only is it fast, but it also kind of limits your opponent in bringing certain things. Like your opponent has to bring their ground type. Not that like it's not a bad idea to bring it anyways, but with Reggielecki being there, you have to bring it because otherwise, specs or just like I don't know, Life Orb or whatever. Reggielecki is going to be Volt switching on everything. It doesn't matter if you're a grass type. I guess if their opponent has Volt Absorb, that's a thing too. But
I mean, even Volt Absorb mons have to consider coming though, because you have a lot of the Volt Absorb mons. I'm trying to do a mental check in my head. Most of them are not particularly bulky. I think honestly the bulkiest one is probably Lantern.
yeah,
So not only do you have the Lando Eye scaring it away, but most of them are pressured out by things like Megalophony and Greninja.
hmm
Well, less so Greninja because they can try and come in against it, but like
guess-
Megalophony scares it away, Kamo scares them away,
hmm
and of
I
course
guess-
the Lander scares them away.
I guess I can see Landorus and Reggielecki, like Thunder's Therian can kind of take them on. But Landorus also gets some decent coverage that really hits hard because of its Life Orb Sheer Force. Like Psychic does a chunk to just anything else that doesn't resist it. like Earth Power is already two-shotting most things. So this team really offers a really strong offensive pressure. And then he has Lopunny and Greninja in the back to kind of clean up if he needs to, or Komao if he wants to set up with that. But I really do like the offensive pressure that he brings with the first couple Mons and Regieleki.
The main issue
to the point of Thunderous Therian feels a rock slide if it has to take it. So,
if it has to take a rock slide.
The main issue with the team is just the lack of reliable recovery and its bulky options. Like Registeel and Uxie, you get chipped down pretty easily. And then also the removers are a little weak with Tentacruel and Regieleki. Like, not the worst, but be better.
Mm-hmm.
Like, its offense is just overwhelming.
But, I mean, yeah, it's offensively going to be more, it's going to be leaning a lot more towards offense and defense, and I think you're going to see a lot of matches where kind of Uxie and Registeel bounce between the two early to do the defensive legwork, clearing the way for Greninja, Megalope, Landorus, and Komao to really clear through, as well as Regieleki. But I feel like we've touched a lot on Landorus and Regieleki, but the three other kind of standout offensive Mons do deserve mentioning. Like Megalope, even though it lost return, is still very much a problem to deal with, particularly getting U-turn. Greninja's Greninja, we know what that thing does. And Komao can win games. It gets Plangerous Soul, can do damn near everything.
Yep.
Can also be defensive if you need it to be. So it really slots into this team perfectly and allows for not only the rest of the teams really stand out, it also can really do a lot of legwork itself.
Yeah, exactly. I really like Registeel and Uxie together. I know they don't have reliable recovery, but they kind of cover each other's weaknesses in a way. Like Registeel's weak to ground and fighting, and Uxie's kind of there to soak those up. Obviously, they don't resist fire together, but Komao is nice defensively as well if he wants to bring it that way.
This is Tentacruel.
Tentacruel's there for that too. Yeah. T-Spikes is also nice to kind of weaken his opponent down. We do see that he has 2 extra points, which he could invest, I guess, in something else, but it's not like he really needs it.
Yeah. In fairness, with the 2 points here, looking at the Mons on his team, there's not a lot of like easy, you can fix this with this. Like with Jude's team, the 5 points you can upgrade.
Maybe a tier 5 grass type might be a little better, but I mean, honestly, it's probably not going to make a very significant
slim
difference.
pickings down there in the low points.
The Grand Bull is obviously not your ideal fairy type to have, but as far as it goes, like it's nice to at least have so that dragon spam doesn't become a thing, and even if it does, like Registeel is there to kind of just soak up anything. But yeah, I guess if you wanted to invest in like a better fairy type, I don't think there was much. I remember talking with him, there wasn't really much that he could grab. But yeah.
I think that closes it off. So next up,
top 3.
Move on to number 3, which is
Photon. Almighty Photon himself. So, I mean, personally, I didn't want to rank this all the way at the top, and I know that you guys really thought really highly of this team, and I think it's because the Spectrier being a new toy with spammable ghost moves, it really adds to how strong this team can become, especially just with its speed here at 130. It's just really, really good.
Like the Spectrier really stands out on this team, not just because 130 speed, 145 special attack with effectively special Moxie, even though it only has really 2 attacking moves, but the Ghost/Dark spam isn't problematic on this team. Many of the common switch-ins in bulky Ghost types, bulky normal types, and bulky Dark types really kind of get pressed out by the rest of his team. You look at Megalade, you look at Primarina, even Drill and Zapdos can do annoying things to them. So you really have to actually, like, as much as you can afford to bring those Mons for the Spectrier, those Mons also really struggle against a lot of the other parts of his team.
Yeah, there's like I mean, he has the Sand Rush Drill, which of course is a nice late game option if he wants to go that way. I think I mentioned it earlier on, like a strategy that might be used very often in Photon's arsenal is just break with Spectrier and Gallade, and then just win with the Exadrill late game. It's not very hard to see. Like Primarina can also do the same thing. He can come in with Specs Moonblast or just Calm Mind. And then just offensively it really like his opponent really struggles to take on these hits. He's not going to be, because his opponent's not going to be taking them hits forever, right? Spectre is going to come in, Primarina is going to come in, Glade's going to come in to take on those normal or dark types that Spectre can't even take on. And then after that the team might get chipped enough to the point where Exegil kind of just sets up and sweeps.
It is worth mentioning that even beyond kind of his offensive breaking that we've touched upon, he's got good ways to get into it. Because Primarina now has Flip Turn, which you can take very effective use of. Zapdos, of course, has Volt Switch and Turn, if I remember correct. So they can very easily pivot into the Spectre and the Megalade. And even things like T-Tar serve a purpose on this team. Not only to set sand, but also that Rock and Dark typing gives the things that Wall Spectrier some problems, because a lot of times you need to build, like, this is actually the thing we were talking about when we were breaking down we're going to put Photon, is Spectre and Megalade as well as Drill are all three mods that you really have to dedicate substantive prep for. You have to really denote whole mods to taking them on, which means that in order to make them less threatening, you're making other mods more threatening for this team, which for certain teams, like some of the ones we touched on lower in the list, that's fine because the mons that would take advantage are not super threatening. On this team, not only do you have three mons you need to kind of special prep for, but you also have surrounding mons that can cause problems in Primarina, Tyranitar, Zapdos, and even Tangrowth and Centiskorch to an extent.
Yeah, they're all mons that that I think just solidify his offense, because I didn't even think about it before, but you're right. The Tyranitar does add a lot of offensive options if the opponent is really just concentrating on the Mega Gallade, the Spectre, and the Exadrill. There needs to be some give when it comes to prepping for Tyranitar as well, and I like that he actually kind of sponged any kind of hits that Spectrier can't take with Tyranitar, because they do work really nice together. Spectrier can come in on fighting hits, Tyranitar can come in on ghost and dark hits. So I do like seeing the synergy there. Zapdos is just a good all-around Pokemon, and then you have his nice pivoting with Tangrowth and Primarina, but otherwise, it's a team I think that belongs in the top here. I think it's a team that teams really need to prep for because the offense is just so great. But I mean, it being at number 3, curious to see what the number 2 spot is, and let's move up to it right now. We have
that would be Swampy
and his Seattle Swamperts. And there's the Crocodile we were looking for.
Yep, the team is just really solid all around. Like every mon is super good.
There's no
like,
bad
not super
mon.
good, but, there's no bad mons.
Yeah.
Like this is a 9-mon draft where you have to actually respect all 9 mons, which is kind of the purpose of why we allowed 9 to 11. So I think this is definitely taking full advantage of the opportunities given to it.
Yeah.
I would say, like, my only complaints is there is kind of some defensive question marks, and just you're putting a lot of pressure on some mons that don't want to be primary defensive inputs.
And there's also no like crazy wall breakers.
My thing was
the
speed tier as well was kind of off, but it's not like it's really slow.
Yeah, but even though we kind of named all those things, the sheer quality of those mons kind of allow us to work them.
They're all really good. Like, as you can see, they're all above 10 points, which it's kind of interesting when you can see, like, he didn't draft anything in the low tiers, which makes it just a very top-heavy build.
Over quantity.
Yeah.
By the way, yes, that is around 9 Nidoking.
Yes.
It's a great pick right there.
And when you
Nidoking breaking.
when you can have Nidoking and Crocodile, it adds a lot of pressure to teams to have like their grass types come, or obviously their flying types. So there's a lot of offense, and there's a lot of I think there's a lot of like these Pokemon, they can all be offensive or defensive, barring the Mienshao, I guess. But that kind of makes it so that it's unpredictable in some cases to prep for Swampy.
Yeah, I think G-Weezing probably goes in that category just because you don't
Yeah.
like offering G-Weezing is super
Mhm.
niche. But
Yeah.
I would say to those points though, Mien and G-Weezing still you have to do some guesswork in terms of what is G-Weezing going to provide defensively and what type of offense is Mienshao going to be. Is it going to be Choice Scarf? Is it going to be Life Orb Swords Dance? Is it going to be some of these other sets? Like could it be a setup with a Resist Berry? Like there's a lot of different ways that you can use all of these mods that fit them together. I would say one thing that Chris, you and I talked about it when we were doing kind of our preview on the front end earlier. The only annoying thing is that there's a lack of immediate power sans the Nidoking.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of mods need one turn to really be threatening to switch into and threatening to take on. But the trade-off is a lot of these mods can actually afford to take that turn. Caesar, when it gets that +1, or Caesar Mega, to be specific, when it gets that +1, is a genuine threat and has very minimal switchings. Crook, you're not really going to be setting up too much, but yeah, it can bulk up and post a bulk up. Problematic. Superior, Leaf Storm Contrary, we know what that does.
Mm-hmm.
Niang clicking Swords Dance, albeit a rarity. When it gets a Swords Dance off, you have a huge problem to switch into it. And Rotom Heat setting up a nasty plot, and Suicune setting up Calm Minds. Like those are genuine things you have to actually keep in mind. So
Swampy,
even though
really...
it doesn't seem like even though it seems like a team that doesn't need Taunt run against it, you're gonna want to have Taunt in the back because it's very easy to catch you off guard with setup.
Taunt is very nice against Suicune as well. Swampy really loves his setup, so I'm glad he got some options for that. And this team,
like everything can set up pretty much.
Yeah, this team in itself is a big threat if you don't watch out for it. Obviously, it's just very overwhelming to look at because he has some hazards as well in Nidoking and Weezing, and then Crocodile obviously is his, I think is his only offensive rocker, or just rocker in general.
He's got great removal. He's got 5 good removals.
I think it's Crook and Nidoking for rocking.
And Nidoking with rock. Yeah.
Well, yeah, which is not ideal, but
yeah. He has a lot of good options with his team, and I think that's something that Swampy really needs. And I could see him easily pushing for playoffs with his team, so I'm glad he got it. I'm glad what he needed. So who's left at number 1? I think there's only one more coach, and I think he's gonna be happy.
That would be Gene.
It's gonna be Gene Machine in his new Winnipeg Aqua Jets. I think it was interesting when we found out that we placed him at number 1 here because I don't know. For the most part, every single season, Gene has drafted amazingly well. I think he knows how to draft, and that's a really good quality in a coach. But also knowing how to use his draft, it makes it even more reliable. So he has things that I think can really adhere to his play style. Normally he likes to go more offensive, but he's drafted a lot of good defensive mons that can also be defensive. For example, he has double Intimidate with regular Gara into Hitmontop as well. And then he has some powerful breakers being Victini. And I guess Gara can even be, like a Mega Gara can be a very offensive breaker. Garchomp can set up the sweep. Gengar doesn't exactly need to be scarfed or choiced in any way, but he does get plot now, which I still don't know if it's one of his more liable sets, but it could do some work. Swellow with Boom Burst.
It's serviceable, but it's not always optimal.
So he has some really nice options on this team that I think makes it top tier. Like it definitely adds. Like he has all the hazards he needs. He has a cleric in Licky Licky, which isn't the best cleric per se, but it does its role well. And it might not even come. I know that you guys are gonna say the only thing it's missing really is some reliable recovery. So you guys can talk
Similar
about
problem to Cammy's.
yeah.
Yeah,
Like,
I think a lot
they
of
both are very good offensively, but lack reliable recovery.
Mm-hmm.
But I think this one is just a little more. I don't know.
I think this team, it doesn't need the recovery as much.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it's very clear what the game plan is with this team, and I have to admit, I didn't like it as much early on, but it kind of grew on me the more I looked into it.
Mm-hmm.
I think that's not because it's a bad team, it's just because there are a lot of mods in it that I personally don't really feel or don't really rate. But the recovery is not super necessary because it's not as much about longevity with this team. I think Mega Gyarados would have liked it.
Yeah.
And maybe Rotamo and Empoleon would have liked, well, Empoleon any type would have more most stable recovery. But when you look at Chomp, Victini, +1 Mega Gyarados, and Gengar and Swallow, their job really isn't longevity. Their job is to get in, click buttons, and break things down so that the next mon can take over.
Yeah.
So really, you're going to see a lot of like Victini doing some early bouncing around with U-turn, maybe getting into V-Create. Then you'll get into probably a defensive mon. And then, fortunately, some of your defensive mons, such as Rotamo, I tore apart Rabambi's defensive capabilities when we were doing the discussion on this. But if we want to call it a defensive mon, making U-turn in Rotamo can Volt Switch, that gets you into another offensive breaker. You can kind of keep cycling in offensive breakers until one dies. And once that one dies, it allows you to get into probably a Mega Gyarados or a Garchomp. You set up a Dragon Dance or a Scale Shot or a Swords Dance, and that can end games right then and there.
Mm-hmm. So, Gene also has a Pikachu. Just wanted to mention that. That's it.
I feel like that was all we needed to say about
that.
That's all it needs to be said. He has a Pikachu. All right.
So that's why he's number one, guys. That Pikachu right there. I think that's gonna wrap it up for us. We're glad that we made this video just a shy bit of 1 hour and 30 minutes, but in any case, we're glad you joined us.
It's not an SBT video unless it's exceedingly long.
Whenever we try to make it short, it still doesn't. Anyways,
it's not my fault.
Yeah. So I hope you guys either agree or disagree with us. It doesn't make a difference. If you disagree, post your own rankings.
What's the other option?
Post your options or your rankings.
Agree, disagree, or other.
There is other.
No.
Post your
slightly agree.
Post your rankings in the comment section below. We'll gladly respond to those.
Hey, like the video if you're still here.
Exactly. So stay tuned for more SBT content, guys. We're going to have more of the divisions recorded and brought out to you. But this is us signing off. So,
See y'all.
See you.